Hello everyone. We're going to be looking at this first, so if you want to grab this sheet of paper, it's going to also be up here on our slideshow. So we're going to go ahead and go to the first slide. And election day morning. So you will arrive at the polling location by 5 a.m., you and everyone else. So we ask that you all dress in layers. Each location will be a little bit different, but if you're a hot person, you might not want to dress in full-on sweatpants and a sweatshirt, depending on your location, but it might be a very cold day. If you're a cold person, dress warm. We just ask that you dress appropriately just because you aren't going to be able to leave the location until the end of the election day. But you can have people bring you clothes if you really need it. And you're going to be there until 6 p.m. and a little bit later just to clean up. And we also ask that you bring lunch and snacks just because, once again, you're not going to be able to leave the location for the entire election period, so that entire day essentially. So you can bring your lunch, or you can have someone bring lunch for you. They just cannot sit and eat with you. They would have to go. So, but bring lunch, bring snacks, make sure you're well fed and ready to go for the day, water, drinks, or anything. So when you get there at 5 a.m., you're going to set up the poll pads and turn them on. The poll pads are going to be in this, and this is what they will look like set up. You will log in using the credentials that are going to be in this poll pad case. And when you turn them on and get them logged in, the check-ins, which we'll show you what the check-ins look like on a later slide, the check-ins should be 0 before 6 a.m. If they are not 0, please call. But they should be 0, and if you have 1, that one should say 0. If you have 2, both of them should say 0. Next slide. So the ID requirements. We have a few acceptable forms of ID. These are a driver's license, an ID card, a passport, or a military or veteran ID. They have to meet 4 criteria. If it's a driver's license or an ID card, it needs to be issued by Indiana, the state of Indiana. There needs to be a photo, a name, and an expiration date. For the expiration date, it needs to be current, and if it is not current, it needs to have expired sometime after the last general election, which is November 8th. We put that down there, November 8th of 2022. So, and if the address on the ID does not match the voter's registration when you check them in on the poll pad, you need to give them the 412 form, the VRG 412 form. This is essentially just, it's going to look like a new voter registration, and they'll just put in their new location, their new address. If they do not have an ID, don't turn them away. You would just call us first. So don't turn them away if they don't have their ID. There is a way for them to vote, but they would have to show us an ID later. Just, there's a random, they forgot their ID, something like that. Yeah, but just make sure that you don't turn them away and you call us first, and our number is right there at the bottom. Next slide. All right, so checking in voters. When you go to get out the poll pads, there is a poll pad guide that we provide on election day. If you have any more questions or you forget, just refer back to that poll pad guide. It'll guide you through it. But you're first going to ask the voter for their ID. You will take that and essentially put it right here into this little area. And we'll go over this again. We're going to go through the poll pad guide. You'll put the ID right there. Again, if there's a change in address, you're going to completely stop. You'll give them that VRG 412 form, and after that form is filled out and you receive it back from them, then you'll continue the check-in process. After you've begun the check-in process, at a point you'll turn the poll pad around so that they can sign their signature, and then after the check-in process is done, if they do require assistance in the booth, let's say they have a shaky hand or something like that, you would summon the inspector, and the inspector will provide them with the pre-3 assistance form, and this is just a form for, I believe, them and the person that will help them fill it out. They need to fill it out so we know that they got assistance, and there's just, a track record of that. And once all that's complete, the ballots might be at a separate table. So these poll pads might be here, and let's say the ballots are at that table. If that is the case, and this won't be the case at all polling locations, if that is the case, you would not keep the receipt. You will hand the voter their receipt, or they will then walk over to the table to receive their ballot. This is because that receipt is going to have the ballot information to make sure that they get the correct ballot. If the ballots are at the table with these poll pads, then you will keep the receipt and you will put it into a baggie that we provide. You know where the baggie is at? No. It's just like a Ziploc baggie. Yeah. Like, it's very simple. So you'll put those receipts into the baggie if the ballots are at the table with you. And it's very important that we keep these receipts because we will need them back whenever you bring back election materials at the end of that day. Next slide. So ballot care and organizations. Like I said, some locations are going to have a different table from the poll pads to the ballots. In that case, whatever ballot table there is, it needs to be organized, and that because there are going to be ballots of different styles. Essentially, this means that, off the top of my head, there's a polling location that is going to be Jeff 1, 2, 4, and is it 6? 5. So Jeff 1, 2, 4, and 5. So voters, it's going to have a lot of people. Voters will come in, and we need to make sure that they don't accidentally get a Jeff 2 if they're in Jeff 1. And this goes a bit further, and we'll cover that later, but we need to make sure that the ballots are organized so that everyone's getting their correct ballot, and they need to be separate. So for the ballots, whenever you are about to hand them their ballot, before that, you are going to initial the back of the ballot, and there are little locations, and we'll show a picture of that. You will initial the back in a red ink pen. There needs to be a clerk from both parties, so a Democrat and a Republican. You will initial your initials onto these spots, and please, please, please do not initial an entire packet once, just because we want to make sure that the ballots are correct and all of that, so we don't want to go through an entire pack and accidentally use those when we don't need to use all of them. Once again, after you check them in, you'll take the poll pad receipt either from the voter if they're coming to the table or from the printout. This is going to say which exact ballot that they require, and we ask that you please pay attention to the precinct name and district, and make sure all these match on that receipt. So the ballot matches the receipt. And then again, you'll place the receipt into the bag that all the poll pad receipts are supposed to go into. So, I'll show a picture of this now. So on the poll pad receipts, like I said, this is essentially the precinct, Charlestown 3. So this would be that Jeff 1, Jeff 2. And a lot of the precincts are split further into splits. So Jeff will be districts. As you can see, Charlestown is cities. So we just ask that you make sure that whatever is printed out on this receipt matches what is said on the ballot. So you just want to make sure that they get the correct ballot. So this one is obviously Charlestown 3, City B. And then on the next slide, the precinct name is going to be located on the front and the back of the ballot. So as you can see from the previous receipt, Charlestown 3, City B, it's at the top. And down here, this is the front, this is the back. Down here on the back of it, it also says Charlestown 3, City B. And this will be where you initial. It doesn't have to be top. Yeah, Democrat can also initial down here. We just ask that you make sure that you're initialing one when you are handing that ballot out to the voter, and that you put your initials. And it's very, very important that they are getting the right ballot, not only to make sure that the voters are voting their correct ballot and the correct offices that are on that ballot, but also because at the end of the night, the ballot count will not match up if this is incorrect, if we are giving out the wrong ballots, and that can be a very big issue that we would like to avoid. Yeah, and close of the polls. So at the end of the night, you're going to give the inspector the number of check-ins from the poll pad, and this is going to be located in the top half of the home screen. So this is what the home screen looks like, and this is where that check-ins will be, right here. This is also going to be that 0 number you want to locate at the beginning of the morning. whenever you turn on the poll pads and get them all set up. So at the beginning of the day, it should say 0. At the end of the day, if you have 1 poll pad, this will be the number you give to the inspector. If you have 2, you will add those 2 numbers together and give that number to the inspector. And after you have given them the number, you're going to disassemble the poll pad and place it back into the correct case. And you'll clean up the location if you need to throw anything away, all of that stuff. And once that's done, you'll make sure that you have been released by the inspector, and then you're welcome to go home. The inspector will release you once they make sure everything is good to go, everything is correct, and everything's packed up, ready to leave, and the location is clean. All right, so next we're going to look at the poll pad training guide. All right, first slide. So what's in the case? You're going to get your poll pad, the poll pad base. So your poll pad, the poll pad base, which is the stand, the cable to plug it in, and yeah, cable to plug it in as long as the wall plug-in part, essentially. You'll also get a stylus. This is if they would like to do their signature with a stylus, they can use that. They can also use their finger. You'll get the ID tray, which is where you would place the driver's license or whatever ID they provide. Very easy to go back in. You'll get the printer and all of the cords needed to plug that in as well. You'll get a screen cleaning cloth. That's to clean the front, or if your camera gets a little smudged, clean the back of it. And then you'll also get the Wi-Fi hotspot. This is just to make sure that it has stable internet connection for election day. Parts of the poll pad. So obviously we have the power button. It's an iPad. I'm sure a lot of people have been around an iPad. We'll have the power button up here, the home button here. It's going to come with a case. That's the plastic shell. Then we have the stand arm down here, the poll pad base, which is the bottom, the camera on the back side, and then again the ID tray. So opening procedures, the hotspot setup. We first off obviously make sure that you turn it on, and we would like, or not that we like, we need these to stay connected to the poll pad throughout the day. This is reporting information back to us about who has voted, everything like that. And it will essentially, it's important that it stays connected to the hotspot so that we're getting that information in real time. So obviously the hotspot is going to be in the poll pad case. You'll turn it on by holding the power button on the side for 5 seconds. And it's going, keep it within 80 feet of the poll pad. So just make sure it's close to make sure it's connected to internet the best it can. It's going to be charged before election day, but we ask that you just, keep an eye on the battery to make sure that it doesn't die. And we will also provide a charger for it so you can plug it into the wall. And again, keep it within 80 feet. That's probably going to be pretty big for most locations. But yeah, just keep it turned on, powered on with enough battery. So for the printer setup, the printer is also going to be inside this green poll pad case. You'll take it out with its adapter and cords. You'll essentially plug it in, make sure it's good to go. And then on the back of the printer is where you'll plug in the power adapter and the connector. Make sure it's plugged in, essentially. Make sure it is good to go and working. And we are going to provide extension cords. That way, if it's inconvenient to get to a certain outlet, or if the outlet only has 1 or 2, that way you have more, so everything can be plugged in if it needs to be. All right. As for the poll pad setup, very easy to set up, and we ask that you come up at the end of this if you would really like to if you have any questions and all of that, but it's a very easy setup. You will attach this arm to this base, and then there's something on the back of the case for the iPad, the poll pad, that you will attach to. Very easy, we'll show you all. Yep. Then the ID tray, like I showed you all, just slides in and out. Very, very simple. And you can, if you want to have it essentially like this or like that, very easy to move. And yeah, power on the pole pad, they will be completely off, so you'll have to hold down the power button until you see the Apple logo show up. Yeah, okay, so when you turn the pole pad on and you're logged in and everything, we ask that you make sure that it is connected to the printer. It'll be connected through Bluetooth. As you can see on the slide, there's a little printer icon. It's going to be in the top right corner. If it is red, that means it's not connected. If it is green, that means it's connected and everything's good. You won't have to plug in any cords from the pole pad to the printer. It is through Bluetooth. Yeah. As also on this, you'll see that, kind of hard to see, but up here will also be the Wi-Fi, and you want to just make sure that everything is green, nothing is red. If it turns red, that means something's not connected. Printer, internet, hotspot, all of that. Yeah, on the home screen, checklist, just make sure that all the information for the polling location that you're working at is correct. The county, election name, date, polling location, all of that. Again, make sure the check-in count is 0, which will be in the middle. Make sure the battery life is close to full, 90% or greater. We'll obviously provide you with a power adapter if you need it. And a bipartisan team will need to log into the poll pad case. We will provide you with the login credentials, but we just want to make sure that everyone logs in with their correct credentials and everything. All right. So scanning barcodes of IDs. Again, we list a date here one more time, that November 8th of 2022. That is the expiration date. So you'll essentially take I'm going to pretend like this is an ID. You will take the ID and you'll set it inside this tray right here, and make sure that the barcode is facing the camera, just so that's what we're scanning. Once it scans, it'll show up the ID that it's scanned, the person's name and their address, and this will essentially begin the check-in process. You want to confirm that their name is correct, their address, photo, and if this is where they will say, oh, I don't live there anymore, then you will provide the form. If their address is unchanged, you will click the address unchanged button, and then you'll turn the poll pad around to them. They will sign, and then you'll press accept, and then we'll continue on. The receipt will print. Yeah, verify that the signatures look similar, obviously. And then it mentions again, complete the VRG 412 form if their address changed. And then a receipt will print. You'll take that they will take that either to the ballot table, or you yourself will take that receipt and put it in the baggie. Right, next page. If their ID does not scan, we've had this issue very rarely, but it does happen. If it does not scan, there is an option to manually enter it. So you will type the first 3 letters of their last name and then the first 3 letters of their first name. This just kind of helps make the search very general. If you make it too specific, they might not show up, but they're in the system. So we are told from them to make sure that you just do the first 3 letters of their name. And you will find them, and yeah, it'll show up the list of who shows up with that name. Make sure you choose the correct person. If you do not find them, we ask that you call us. Our number will be plastered over everything. So as long as you find the office number and call us, we'll be able to help you from there. Now, changing the receipt paper in the poll pad receipt printer. Very easy. There's a button on the side. I want to get in front of the camera. In front of it? Yeah, okay. So there's a button on the side. You'll push it back, and that will open the printer. The printer paper is very specific. You will want to make sure that it is coming from underneath. If it goes over like this and prints this way, one side is thermal and it will just not print correctly, so make sure that it is coming from under. You'll put it in. You can have some excess kind of sticking out. and it goes just like that, and that would, yep, it'll print it off what excess is out and make sure that it's loaded for the next print. Very simple, very easy, and we'll provide you with extra receipt paper.
About how many receipts can you print in one roll of paper?
Yeah, thousands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
the receipt papers are only about 4 or 5 inches long.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So if you might have to change it once if it's unfortunate. So yeah, reload the paper with the flap coming from underneath, and close. It'll slightly print out just a little bit more. Rip that off so that you print out a normal sized receipt for the next person. And then you should just be good to go. It's as simple as that. So like I was saying earlier, the poll pad must stay connected to the hotspot because of the cloud sync. This is essentially, so it was in the top right. This is what it looks like if it's not connected and not reporting back to us. This is what it looks like when it is good, everything's connected, and it's reporting back to us at the Judicial Center. And this is just to make sure that, again, we're checking information, seeing real-time updates. If it's green, it's good. If it's yellow, it just means that it hasn't been synced in a while, and you might need to click the icon. It'll drop down a menu and do synchronize now, and that'll just make sure that the information that hasn't been reported back gets reported back to us. And if the icon is red, it has lost its connectivity. Check the hotspot or cradle. You might need to move the poll pad or the hotspot closer to each other. Make sure everything's plugged in and on. If you cannot get it connected, please call us. If we notice that you have not been connected for a while, we might call you just to ask what's going on. Is there anything wrong? But just take glances every now and then just to make sure. Closing procedures. So again, you'll give the number in the middle of the screen of the check-ins to the inspector. If you have one, you'll do just that number. If you have two, you'll combine those numbers and give that number to the inspector. You will turn off the hotspot, remove the power cord if it's plugged in. You'll unplug the printer and the poll pad, turn them off. You'll disassemble the entire poll pad from the base to the arm to the ID card thing, and place them back in the case. So if you have multiple poll pads, each poll pad and printer is paired, so we ask that you make sure that they are going into the same case with each other. So right now we have this one set up, so this poll pad and that printer would need to go back together in this case together. We just, make sure that way we keep track of everything, nothing gets crossed. And there will be a device number, so it'll you'll be able to check and make sure that, these two go together. So there will be a device number correlated to everything. And place them in the correct cases at the end of the night. Yeah. And last slide, I believe. It's very simple. We have someone here who's used it before, and she can attest to it. Very simple to use once you figure it out. I know it's a lot of information to take in, but we're here to help you. So please, any questions, call us, refer back to this guide and the guide we provide. Take these home tonight, read over it if you're really worried, but it's very simple. And there's our number again. So if you want to call us with questions before Election Day, you can call us. If you don't have any questions until Election Day, you can also call us on Election Day. We're there to help. Yeah. Another thing that's going to be in front of you all is this checklist and duties paper, a bunch of highlights on it. This is, again, just an even more detailed list of a lot of the things we've covered, but this is going over both the Monday night setup and Election Day of everything that you would do, which would be in pink. So the clerks will be in pink if you want to check any of the duties you all would have to do. But this is just a step-by-step guide to help you all on Election Day. It goes over, again, the checklist and duties for Monday night, Election Day, close of the polls, and on the back, and material placement and drop-off. That's also on there. On the back, again, is all of our numbers, as well as the county election board. So you have the entire office number, which will reach any of our phones at our desks, as well as our personal numbers, and Jim's extension to his, if you want to call Jim specifically. But this is here to, if you have any questions or you need any help on election day, please use those numbers to call us and let us know. Lastly, the other thing you all have received is the 2023 Indiana Election Day Handbook. This just goes over a lot more of a deep dive into any questions you all might have. This is from the state, right?
Yes.
So this is from the state. This is not from us. So it does give you a very, very specific state guide of every possible question you could have. There's a lot of interesting materials in here, so if you have any questions, I highly recommend looking in here too. You'll get some very good information that we might not know about state codes, specifically for Election Day. But again, it is just another resource to help you all. If you have any questions specific to Clark County elections, please call us and we will help you. The last thing is that if you should know by now, the polling location you're working at, we highly stress that if you are not working at the polling location that you would normally vote at, that you come in for early voting, just because if you work at a different polling location, you will not be able to vote there that day. So we have early voting at the courthouse the rest of this week and Saturday from 9 to 4, and then next week, Monday only, from 9 to noon. So come in for early voting. If you realize you're not working at your polling location, you can come in for early voting even if you do work at your polling location. But we want to make sure that you all have the ability to vote even if you're working on election day. So please come in. There are no lines. You'll get lucky if there's a line. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Oh, yes. Okay, so last thing. Another very, very important thing to know. If you'll notice, over here we have straight parties and Republican and Democrat. If they vote straight party, they will still have to go in and individually select the at-large candidates that they would like to vote for. So if they were to vote a straight party for Republican, they would need to come down here to the at-large, and it says vote for one only. This is just for this ballot. There are ballots where it says select 2, select 3. But we just make sure that you stress to the voter that they would need to, if they select straight party, it will not apply to their at-large office on their ballot, and they would need to go in and pick the who they would like to vote for on their at-large. So in the situation of someone wants to vote Republican straight party, they would need to come down here and vote for the Republican in the at-large position. So, but if they don't want to vote straight party, they can go in and individually pick for each. Yes. So, any questions? Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you, the township, like you're in Clark County Township, they're not voting next week, are they?
What do you mean by Clark County Township?
You mean like in the county?
Yes.
Right, this is only municipalities, so
Yeah,
it's only the
people have been
city
asking
and
me
towns.
that, and I said, no, if you live in the county, if you're Clark County, you do not vote.
Right, if you don't live within the city or town lines, then you do not vote.
Okay.
It would say no ballot.
No ballot.
So if, let's say someone comes in and you go to sign them or you go to check them in on the poll pad, it will say no ballot, meaning that they do not vote this election. They would vote
Okay.
in May.
It'll be in red.
Yeah.
Right.
That's our poll pad veteran over there. She knows.
What do you mean it'll be in red?
It'll say no ballot
be an
in
alert.
red. It'll just be like a red strip at the top.
When you put their name up.
There's no accidentally,
And it won't let you go any farther either.
there's no accidentally printing them out a ballot or having them vote.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That was a great question.
Good question.
Any more?
All good questions.
Yeah, a lot of people I know, they say, well, everybody votes. I said, well, maybe in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Any questions about the poll pad or election day? I'm sure if you have it, someone else also has it. So please feel free to ask.
There may be a question when someone gets their ballot and it only has one straight party on there? Can y'all talk about that?
So, in the case, this ballot has both straight parties, the Democrat or Republican. There are a lot of ballots that have either just one straight party, and it either is just Republican or just Democrat. The reason this is that because there are certain offices, you can kind of see up here, the Charlestown City Clerk Treasurer only has a Republican running for it. So let's say that every other position except the at-large has a Democrat in it. The Republican at-large party will not be on that ballot, but the Democrat at-large party would be. This is
Straight party.
the straight party, sorry, not at-large, straight party.
Okay.
This is because essentially, since the only way they could vote for a Republican would be to sign in the at-large, not sign, to fill in the, yes, write in for the Republicans into the at-large, they wouldn't have a straight party because there are no Republicans running in the other offices, if that makes sense.
Is this ballot a new ballot? I mean, the way, like, if you wanted to vote all Republican or all Democrat, you used to just fill in whatever the top, but now you've got to do it in two places.
So what you're thinking of is this straight party,
Yes.
but this is going to have, you can, not on this one, but on other ballots, you can pick multiple options. So we want to make sure that if there is one where you have to pick two people, and there's, let's say, 3 Republicans running, it's not going to read
So,
a straight party because it wants to know the specifics of who you're choosing, if that makes sense.
What polling location are you at?
oh, I'm in Bennettsville Township,
Carr.
County. I mean, in Clark County, but.
Carr Township? You probably only have a Democrat or a straight Republican ballot. There won't be a straight party Democrat on that ballot.
Okay,
Due to the fact that there's not a clerk treasurer, I don't think in Sellersburg, or a district
Not a
council in
contested
that
race,
area.
no.
Yeah, they're not contested.
Yeah.
So you will only have the Republican straight party on that ballot.
but I was thinking if someone was, filling it out and asked me, if I used to take that, they'd have to judge that.
Right. Yeah.
I'd be the judges.
Yep, so if anybody wants to come and take apart the poll pad or, mess with it, whatever you'd like to do, they're here to train on. We appreciate you guys coming
Yes,
out.
please come up. If you all are, worried about it, we would love to show you all just everything that you would need to know.
Okay.
yeah.
So when I come
And
to
if
vote,
not, if you feel comfortable, then you are released.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming out.
when I come in, like I'm working at the polls my first time, I'll get one of these.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And these will already be there.